Here we do. Okay. Hey. Hello there. Megan, how are you, brother? Are you back at work yet? I'm good, man. I'm doing fabulous. So different levels, different devils. Hi, Vanessa, Tasneem. Okay, guys, thanks for taking the time to join us today. We're going to talk about diabetes. Diabetes is one of those silent killers. Out of a population of 55 million South Africans, we have 5 million South Africans that are suffering from diabetes. We've got another 10 million South Africans that don't know they have diabetes. They're pre-diabetic. Now, chances are, if you look at those statistics, you know at least either you diabetic yourself or you know somebody else that is diabetic. Now, diabetes is looked as a death sentence. The way our society looks at diabetic, the minute you're diabetic, then it means you're going to be on medication for the rest of your lives. Let's look at what diabetes is. Now, diabetes is a group of diseases that is characterized by elevated blood sugar levels, where your body cannot metabolize or break down sugar that has been broken down from any of the carbohydrates foods that you've eaten. And then all of a sudden, it flows too much in your bloodstream and eventually it starts poisoning the system. And the way we've been told and the way our society or the medical fraternity is treating diabetes, the minute you have diabetes, first, they'll always start you on very slow medication. You'll always start with your glucophage, and then they'll move you on to insulin. But let's start first with how many kinds of diabetes do we have? One characteristic or one hormone that is characterized or defines diabetes is a hormone we call insulin. So the first kind of diabetes here is type 1 diabetes. They'll always call it childhood diabetes, that people that have it, most of them are born with it. And the characteristics of that is that your pancreas, the organ that is responsible for releasing insulin, doesn't work. So you have to start injecting insulin directly using a syringe. The second diabetes is what they call adult onset diabetes. And this happens in most cases when you are a grown-up person. So this is purely lifestyle related, based on the way you've lived your life, the way you've eaten, the way you've looked after yourself. And the problem with this is your body, in most cases, your muscle cells or your insulin cells don't take the sugar in, and all of a sudden there's an influx of so much insulin in your body. And most people will always see, when we were talking about this last time, they were talking about syndrome X. And the third kind of diabetes here is gestational diabetes. This will always get most pregnant women. 50% of pregnant women or women that get diabetes during pregnancy always end up developing pregnancy later in life. So it's not a good thing for you to do that. We have to look at your lifestyle before that happens. What are the side effects of diabetes? First, diabetes is the number one cause of amputations in this country, and it is the leading cause of death among blacks and Indians in this country. The physiological price that accompanies diabetes, one is blindness. That is very well known. Kidney failure. If you've got a wound, it takes too long to heal. Cardiovascular complications like heart attacks and stroke. We've got, it becomes a precursor for cancer. And for men, it will always increase pre-erectile dysfunction. Diabetes doesn't have to be reversible. We have to look at it in different ways. Let's go back to the definitions first. If you know anybody that is type 1 diabetic in your family, somebody that takes insulin, what are their physical characteristics? Are they thin or are they big? And in most cases, you will find they are always thin. What does that mean? It means that absence of insulin will consistently eat everything in sight. So it will eat the muscle and it will eat the fat. Type 1 diabetic people eat a lot, but they consistently keep on losing weight. Then when you find people that are type 2 diabetic, which is lifestyle related, you'll find all they have to do is just look at food and all of a sudden their hips grow big. So that tells you that too much insulin in your system will turn everything that you eat into fat. Now remember, insulin is your fat storing hormone. It doesn't really matter how hard you train. It doesn't really matter how good you eat. If your insulin levels are high, everything that you take in gets shuttled into your blood cells and it gets stored into your fat cells. Your body has got two energy sources. You can either use sugar, which we call glucose, or you can use fat that we call triglycerides. Now, glucose comes from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are your starchy foods. You've got what we call starchy carbs. These are your carbohydrates that are normally natural, more or less natural in their normal state. Your starchy carbs are things like your grains, things which we're talking about pasta, we're talking about your breads. Starchy carbs are things like your sweet potato, your white potato, things like your pasta. All those things fall under starchy carbs. And then you've got your second kind of carbs that we call sugary or processed carbs. These are things where you find in most of them are things that come in a box. Rule number one when it comes to diabetes: never ever eat anything that comes in a box. Secondly, never ever eat anything that somebody has to tell you it's natural. If your eyes can't tell you it's natural, you have to read it on a box. Chances are it's not natural. Thirdly, when you go into the supermarket, you have to stay on the periphery of the supermarket. Anything that is good for your health and anything that is good for your blood sugar levels, stability of blood sugar levels, will be found on the outside aisle. Anything that is inside the supermarket, in most cases, will always elevate your blood sugar levels. And then the third carbohydrate is what we call fibrous carbs. Fibrous carbs are those foods that come off the ground, foods that are very high in fiber, and some people will always call it roughage. Why is that important? Your blood sugar level we've got three micronutrients in the foods that we eat. The first one is carbohydrates, which gets broken down into starch. When you eat rice, you are eating rice as a human being, but your body does not see rice. Your body will break that rice down into what we call glycogen. When you eat a peanut sandwich, your eyes, you as a human being, you're eating a peanut sandwich, but your body can only break it down into glucose as glycogen and break it down. Now, glycogen elevates your blood sugar levels depending on how much of that you eat. The second food macronutrient is protein. Protein is what we call your amino acids. Anytime you eat a piece of chicken, anytime you eat an egg, anytime you eat beans, you as a human being, you're eating beans, but your cells don't see beans. Your cells don't see chicken. Your cells sees it into the final product. It has to break it down into amino acids that it's going to use to either repair or build new muscles. When you eat fats, which is your third macronutrients, you are eating avocado, you are eating peanut, you are using olive oil. You as a human being sees that, but your cells have to break it down into triglycerides for it to be able to do that. So your body's got two energy sources that it uses for you to be able to function on a day-to-day basis. Now remember, you need energy to be able to live, and you need energy to be able to do anything that you need to do. That brings us down to the very easy definition. What is energy? Energy is the ability to do work. If your energy is down, you can't function. If your energy is down, you can't think. If your energy is down, you can't perform. If your energy is down, you can't walk. If your energy is down, you can't do anything. So energy is your ability to do work. And energy comes from the food that you eat in, that your body converts into that. So you've got two sources. One that comes from carbohydrates, which is glycogen, and two, the one that comes from fats that we call triglycerides. Now, these two sources, whichever one that your body taps into determines one, what hormonal state you're going to be in. Are you going to be in a fat burning state hormonally? Or are you going to be in a fat storing state hormonally? Now remember, glycogen comes from starch. Triglycerides comes from fat. Now if you're eating a lot of sugar, which comes from your starchy foods here, if you're eating a lot of sugar over a long period of time, now if you look at most of us, we eat sugar. Majority of people, they'll eat 3 meals and then they'll eat three snacks in between. Your body doesn't see it as a snack. Your body sees it as a meal because it has to break it down. So in total, if you're eating every meal, if you're eating 6 meals, it means, and each meal you have a starch in it, it means consistently you keep on raising your blood sugar level up. Now remember, if your blood sugar level goes up, automatically your insulin goes up. Now, what does insulin do? The main function of insulin is to regulate the amount of sugar in your bloodstream. But remember, you've eaten breakfast, you've eaten a snack, you've eaten lunch, you've eaten a snack, you've eaten dinner, and you've eaten a bedtime snack. Now, these are 6 meals. And each time you eat this meal, your blood sugar level goes up. And each time your blood sugar level goes up, automatically what happens? Your insulin goes up. Now, consistently, if your insulin keeps on being raised the whole time because your sugar is high, now your muscle cells, which stores your sugar, if you are a big man, on average, you can store up to 350 grams of sugar. If you are a big woman, on average, you can store up to 270 grams of sugar. Now, if you're eating 6 meals a day, and each meal has sugar, and the majority of people will eat at least on average 50 to 80 grams of sugar in their snacks and 100 grams of sugar in each meal. So on average, you're eating more than 300 grams of sugar a day. Your glycogen, which is your sugar, can only be stored in your liver, and it can only be stored in your muscle cells. So which means after you've eaten the first 2 meals, or the first 3 meals, the storage for your sugar is full. Now, anything that you eat extra, your body needs to store it somewhere else. Now, unfortunately, your body can only start storing that if this storage is full. All of a sudden, anytime you eat food and insulin is released, and insulin tries to take all this sugar in your bloodstream to push it into your muscle cell says, hey, stop, house full. And like a traffic cop, it redirects your insulin to take this sugar somewhere else. Now, you've got only two storage spaces in your life. You've got your liver and you've got your muscle cells where you store sugar. And then you've got your fat cells. Now, if this is full, if your sugar or glycogen levels, which is your liver and your muscle cells, are full, then it has to direct it to your fat cells. So you have two meals, which fills up your sugar storage. Now, every other meal that you eat, you have this traffic cop that consistently keeps on pushing and directing this sugar into your fat cells. Now, fat, the minute insulin drives whatever nutrients you've eaten or sugar into your fat cells, now remember, it gets stored as fat. Fat is your savings. Fat is your emergency store. Anytime it drives these calories into your fat cells, it switches it off. It cuts it off. You can't access it. It drives it in, but you cannot access it. So consistently, you keep on eating. Now, if your sugar intake, which is carbohydrates, and in most cases, I will classify that for you as we go along, as long as your carbohydrate intake keeps on going up and your blood sugar level keeps on going, your blood sugar keeps on going up and your insulin keeps on shifting it into your fat cells. Now, all of a sudden, when it pushes it in, one thing that we never told is that the minute your insulin shuttles all your sugar into your fat cells, it blocks it. Now, your fat cells need a different key for you to be able to enable it, open it up so that you can use it. Now, over time, because you don't become fat overnight, you become fat over a period of time. You only become fat over a period of time. Now, if this is finished, now your fat cells are full. Every single time, over time, you start saying, over time, after 5 years or 10 years, you'll start talking that you're insulin resistant. Now, when you become insulin resistant, now imagine you left your house in the morning, you went to work, you locked it, and then when you came back in the evening, you take out your key, you put it in the keyhole. When you try to open it, the key doesn't fit in. When you look into the keyhole, you see there is something stuck in there that needs to be taken out for you to open your door. And that's what happens when it comes to fat cells being locked. And that's where diabetes comes in. Now, all your fat cells are full of this chewing gum that somebody took and put it in your keyhole. Now, unless you take that chewing gum out, it doesn't really matter what you do trying to put the key in. The key is not going to fit. This key is perfect for that keyhole, but it cannot go in because why? Because you've got a chewing gum in there. Now, most people that are type 2 diabetic, the first thing they do, they'll always go to a doctor. And the doctor will tell you that your body does not break down fat. Your body is not breaking down sugar. We need to accelerate that. What is the first thing they'll put you on? They will put you on medication. They'll put you on metformin. Now, in most cases, for the first 6 months, it will work. Every time they do that. Now, the more they put you on, the more you take it. Like anything else, over a period of time, your body starts being resistant to it. The amount that you are taking to bring your blood sugar level down won't work. You have to increase it. After 6 months, 1 year, you're increasing the amount of medication that you're taking. Now, over time, you have to move. The more severe your insulin becomes, you have to start taking insulin. And the more insulin you take, the more sick you start becoming. Now, you'll find most people that are on glucophage. Glucophage is what they'll give you normally in this country. They'll always give you glucophage as your first step to curing diabetes. But they don't change the way you eat. Or in most cases, they will always tell you, you have to take glucophage. But the side effects of glucophage is, when you eat glucophage, it's going to suck all the sugar from your bloodstream. So you must always have a snack around with you. You'll find most people that I deal with that are diabetic, they always have a sugar snack in their bag. And they're always just panicking. They always look at that like a fat kid waiting for candy. Constantly they're looking for that. So you take your glucophage, it brings your blood sugar level down, then you eat another sugar, which raises your sugar up, then you have to take more glucophage. Now it becomes a vicious circle. Consistently, you eat medication, medication brings your sugar down, then you eat a lot of sugar, then you take another medication, and the more you keep on eating. Now remember, every single time you keep on taking glucophage, and every single time you keep on taking more of the medication, your insulin levels keeps on rising. And as long as your insulin levels keeps on rising, you are putting on weight. So you'll find most people that are suffering from syndrome X, which is being insulin resistance, they are on medication. They're consistently eating, but their weight is consistently going up. Now, after a few days or after a few years, they have to put you on insulin. I've heard people that are taking 200 IUs of insulin a day. Can you imagine how horrible you feel taking 200 IUs of insulin a day? Let's look at it like this. You've got a leaking roof, and every single time it rains, you buy a new bucket to collect water. Every single time it rains, you buy another big bucket to collect water. Is that really the solution? No, it's not. The solution is to patch up the roof. So bringing in glucophage and bringing in insulin, it is dealing with the symptoms. It is like the same thing where you try to tell somebody that is addicted to cigarettes. You tell them that every time you have a craving for a puff, just take one puff. Are you really helping the person? Now, we need to be able to change that. Diabetes is a lifestyle disease. Diabetes is simply caused by the amount of food that you eat. You cannot use chemicals to treat a lifestyle disease. If we're going to be able to not only slow down and eventually reverse the debilitating effects of diabetes, the first thing that we have to do is we have to relook at how your body functions. We have to go to the cause. And what is the cause? The cause here is, number one, there is too much sugar in your bloodstream. What is causing the sugar? What is causing the sugar here is you are eating too much sugar. How do we stop that? We have to look at what it is that you eat first. What is it that you're eating? How do we change that so that you can be able to satisfy your cells, but at the same time not be able to elevate your blood sugar levels up? And that's what we do. We need to be able to go in, get into the cell, pull out the chewing gum in the keyhole, put in the key, and the key to be able to open so that it makes it easier for you to be able to do that. Now, diabetes is a killer. And if you ever seen anybody that is diabetic, most people are very obsessed with the blood sugar. Now, when you go to most doctors, if you're diabetic, if you go to the South African Diabetic Center, the first question they ask you, how is your sugar? Your sugar is fine because you just took insulin or you just took glucophage. But your diabetes is not. Your diabetes is getting worse. The sugar is getting fine, but the diabetes is getting worse. Most people that are on diabetic protocol, their diabetes does not get better. They end up getting amputations. They end up being blind. They get up getting wounds that don't heal, and they get up automatically suffering from erectile dysfunction, and eventually they end up suffering from things like heart attacks. Now, what is the solution? The first solution here is we have to change your body's hormonal structure. There are 3 hormones that are responsible when it comes to your weight. Number 1 hormone is insulin. What is the function of insulin? Function of insulin is to regulate the amount of sugar in your bloodstream. To regulate the amount of sugar in your bloodstream. Then the second hormone here is what we call glucagon. The main function of glucagon, it is to break down fats in your fat cells so that you can use that fat as your main source of energy. Now, when you go to gym, your main focus is to use that fat that you're sitting on right now to be your main source of energy. Because if you don't activate that fat, then you are using whatever sugar that is in your bloodstream, and then automatically you're not going to be able to lose weight. You've seen people come to gym, they say, Steve, I didn't eat well today, I'm so tired. They either eat a banana, they eat an apple, they drink a juice, they drinking energy, and they go train. When I see you do that, I do one of this. Because all I know is you're just going to waste that 1 hour. Because whatever it is that you have in your bloodstream is what's going to be used as your main source of fuel at the expense of the fat that you need to be able to be burning. Now, this brings us, how do we change this? To change this, we need to change your hormonal environment. Hormones either burn or promote fat gain. Insulin as a hormone promotes and stores fat. Glucagon burns down fat and uses fat as your main source of fuel. Now, these two hormones are inversely related. If your insulin is up, because you eat a lot of sugar, then automatically your glucagon is down. But the minute I bring your insulin down, automatically you push this up. Now, the minute your glucagon goes up, in that state, irrespective of your activity, irrespective of everything you do, you are in a fat burning state. Now, remember, exercise has a lot of health benefits, but exercise cannot be used to burn fat. Exercise is there, number one, to increase and get you healthy in terms of increasing your lung capacity. 2, to build muscle. And 3, to shape your body. You cannot use exercise to shape your body when your body fat percentage is high. And that's why 85% of your weight loss and 85% of your drop in body fat will be first and foremost using the Dream Body Fitness Eating Plan. First, we change your hormonal environment, and then after that, we come inside out and we start using your body to shape the muscle that is already formed. Insulin can be reversed. 1, intermittent fasting. When we talk about intermittent fasting, most people get their pants into a curly, say, I can't do that. I love food, and I'm also scared of fasting, but fasting has a lot of advantages and health benefits. There is no religion out there that does not advocate fasting. We talk about Daniel's fast. Muslims are doing the Ramadan now. Why is that important when it comes to that? It's important when it comes to doing that because at this rate, most of our cells are dying at a very fast pace and they're not repairing themselves quick enough. You have 1 million cells that are dying on a daily basis. So unless you start doing any of these things, automatically it will affect you. When we talk about intermittent fasting, I don't mean that you have to starve yourself. I'm talking about giving yourself time in between meals so that your blood sugar level can be levelized, so that your insulin is not pushed up and automatically your body has to force itself to tap into your stored body fat so that obviously you start losing weight. Every 3 months, you are a new person because every 3 months, you've got new cells. If our cells are new every 90 days, the question is, why are we getting old? We are getting old because we are not changing the raw material we use to build our cells. Our cells can only be as good as what we put in, but unfortunately, most of us feed our dogs better than we feed ourselves. We take anything that has been thrown in front of us without being conscious. I need intuitive eating. When we talk about this, I don't want a diet. I don't want you to try eating for losing weight. I need you to eat for being healthy. And if you're going to eat for being healthy, you have to be very intuitive the way you eat your foods. If your grandmother can't tell if it's a food or not, stay away from it. If you don't like it, don't eat it. If you can't pronounce it, run away from it. If it's written in English, what it does for you, that's why you're getting overweight. So all those things, intermittent fasting, I'm bringing in over a 12-hour period. What is the easiest way to do this? I'll eat my last meal at 8 p.m. at night. I go to bed, I'll sleep the whole night. My next meal will be 8 a.m. the next day. That's already 12 hours. I haven't felt anything. I've had the whole day to be able to do that. The advantage with that is anytime I'm walking, anytime I'm sleeping, my body's in a consistently fat burning state. My anti-inflammatory hormones are on the lowest because my body is repairing itself. My blood vessels and arteries are cleaning themselves up because I have enough time for them to tap into my stored body fat, burn it as my source of energy where it does not have to use sugar. 3, I don't get cravings at all. Number 2, we have to increase your fibrous carbohydrates. Fiber fills you up. Fiber fills you up. Fiber does not rise your blood sugar levels up, and fiber promotes a healthy biochemistry, a healthy stomach flora, a healthy bacteria environment in your stomach, which affects how you think. Because if your stomach is messed up because you're eating a lot of sugar, it will consistently keep on sending a signal to your brain to tell you that you're hungry, that you need to be eating now. But are you eating because you're hungry? Are you eating because your hormones are out of work? There's a big difference between hormonal hunger and real hunger. And most of us don't eat because we're hungry. Most of us eat because our hormones are going up from all the funny snacks that we're eating consistently. And of course, the third thing that we need to do here is we need to increase our intake of plant-based starch. Okay? I'm not going to be able to give you an eating plan on this. If you want that, you're going to have to write us a message. We talk about that. I don't want to do this on a public platform. It will give us a lot of doubt. But the way we are treating our diabetes, it is the same way that it's killing us. Most people that are diabetic, they've been condemned to a death sentence. But diabetes, especially diabetes 2, Type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease, and by changing your lifestyle, automatically your body responds. You don't have to die or live like that. Being diabetic is a horrible, horrible way to live, and it has to stop. If you guys have any questions, if you want to know anything, I'll give you a few minutes to ask me questions, and then we take it from there. Janine, Mr. Jerry Senwane, how are you, sir? If you guys have any questions, I'll take 2 questions from every platform. Mr. Peter Ngatia, Beatrice Pempanyali, how are you doing? Natalie Augustine, we haven't seen you for long, we miss you. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. If you've got anybody that is diabetic, remember, it is your responsibility to help them. They shouldn't live like that. Taking injections consistently, taking your blood glucose is a very inconsistent way of living. Tuli, thank you very much for your attendance. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot. If not, I will see you at 4 p.m. for physical exercise. Remember, movement creates emotion. Motion creates emotion. How you move determines how happy you become. I have a tendency of being woken up with hunger. What could cause that? Purely that means you're spiking. Whatever it is that you eat before you go to bed is very high in sugar. It raises your blood sugar level up straight away. So when you're sleeping, it drops. And when it drops, that's why you wake up straight away, because your body, if your blood sugar level keeps on dropping, your brain gets the signal that you're dying, and the automatic thing to keep you alive is hunger. Hunger will force you to eat. So you have to relook. The way we've been told over time is not to eat starch at night, and we eat a lot of protein, but that has to change. If I were you, if I had to do your eating plan, I will change. Bring in plant-based starch at night and a high high fat meal, because fat is the only macronutrient that does not spike or raise your blood sugar levels up. Claudia, natural sugars. Do we need to watch the fruit that we eat? Definitely. If you've got 10 plus kilos to lose, the first thing that I cut out is sugar. Not all sugars are natural. We've always been told that natural foods are good for you, but sugar is purely made of fructose and water. Vegetables are purely made of minerals, vitamins, and anti-inflammatories, and your phytonutrients. So when it comes to sugar, if let's imagine you are talking to Shaka Zulu now, Claudia, what will Shaka Zulu be eating as a fruit? Will Shaka Zulu be eating a banana? Will Shaka Zulu be eating an apple? In most cases, he'll be eating fruits off the ground. Fruits that we get off trees, most of them are very high in fructose. Fructose, unfortunately, can only be metabolized through your liver, and because it can be metabolized through your liver, there's too much. Most of us eat a lot of fruits. When you eat a fruit salad, people are eating up to 3-4 fruits in one time. It spikes your sugar. And because it spikes your sugar, it gets stored as fat, and that fat unfortunately becomes the main cause that pushes your diabetes up. So when it comes to fruits, we have to know which fruits to eat. Fruits that are very high in fructose, we have to limit them. We're going for berries or the berry family, because the main sugar in berry family is they don't have fructose. They always bring in your very strong antioxidants that protects your cells from breaking down. Yes, sugar has to be watched, but we have to stick more to berry family. Okay, I've got another question there. What is your intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is the way to go. For good health, for body fat percentage, for youth, for inflammation, for breakdown of or reversing diabetes too. But it's the timing. People get so scared of doing that. Eat, because this is your, for ladies there, if you're there, you do that for me. For a woman, that's the size of your stomach. Now, this stomach, irrespective of how big you are, look at the amount of food that you're eating. Now, around your stomach, you've got a sheath that is an expansion sheath. Anytime you put something in your stomach, it expands. And when it expands, it sends signals. You've got neurons that run from your brain all the way in your spine into your stomach that tells you you're full. So when you eat for intermittent fasting, rather than snacking, eat a meal that gets you full. And then do your intermittent fasting when you're not physical. So do your intermittent fasting. I do mine from 8 p.m. at night and then till 8 a.m. the next day. It gives me 12 hours in a time when I'm not physical and when I'm less productive. And then during the day, I'll bring in my normal meals. Okay? You've got with intermittent fasting and training, when is the best time to train and break the fast? Intermittent fasting, I do it at night, so it doesn't really matter. You have to find what is which is your best time for you in terms of training. Which is your high energy time? These are things. My high energy time for me is 6:30 in the morning. 6:30, I can lift trucks. 6:30, I'm at my best mentally. 6:30, I can do any of this. Find what is the best time. But if you fasting at night and you want to maximize how much fat that body or your cells are going to use or burn when it comes to exercise, then the morning becomes the best time. But if you're doing something like Ramadan now, where you're fasting the whole day, the best time to train is always 1 hour before you break the fast. Anything else? Mr. Darin Basso, how can I help you? Thank you very much, guys. Then I'm going to see you at 4 p.m. And don't forget, we'll see you on Wednesday. Wednesday is our faith spiritual day. And God bless. Stay safe. Eat right. And work on your mind. Hasta la vista. Au revoir. Kwaheri. Thanks, Megan. You too, Janine. Bye-bye. Beatrice, I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.